Hello, and welcome to Non Sequitur News for July 2nd, 2024. It's Season 3, Episode 184. I am Mayor Watt, and my co-host is the sentient AI from the future.
Good evening, ohmTown citizens. Welcome to Non Sequitur News.
Today we're going to be talking about saving dolphins from mass stranding, the Boston subway gets googly eyes, Spotify emergency alerts, AI trains even with strict privacy settings, Google carbon footprint surges, Hydrovolt opens battery recycling in France, inventing a child, bird flu vaccine, what is going on with EV software, and alleged misconduct impacts young thug trial. Talk about non sequitur news. Everything is powered by ohmTown.com. Go over there, become a citizen, then come back, hang out here in chat, either in Twitch, twitch.tv/ohmTown, or youtube.com/ohmTown and /live ohmTown. You'll figure it out. All right, Aru, let's get into the show. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right, the very first article is over in something. I don't know what's going on. Things are going kind of slow here sometimes. I do not want to reboot. Anyway, the first article is over in Non Sequitur News. Animal rescuers saved more than 100 dolphins during mass stranding event around Cape Cod. I think it's because somebody in ohmTown had a really high-pitched voice when they were excited about something on TV, and the dolphins just said, "I gotta go meet them," and beached themselves.
I think this is really cool, especially if this is just regular people.
It would have to be. Animal rescuers have been able to coax more than 100 dolphins away from shallow waters around Cape Cod over the weekend after about 125 of the Atlantic white-sided dolphins became stranded. It's interesting. Like, I'm not sure what would cause this. Man, there is something really weird.
Well, there's got to be something related to climate change.
Yeah, that really does seem like that's what's going on. So how do you think they coaxed them? Like, if it was
That's what I was wondering.
If it was me on the beach, they could probably coax me somewhere with a slice of pizza.
Yeah, I was gonna say it might be food. Like, if you were trying to bring horses, you might have carrots or something. I don't know what. Dolphins, maybe they held up fish.
I like some of them. Okay, so they refer to this as coaxing them, right? Coaxing them, about 100 of the dolphins away from shallow waters. Several of them died, but that was probably before any of the rescuers could get there. According to the International Fund for Animal Welfare, which helped lead the rescue attempt, the nonprofit said that it was the largest mass stranding it had dealt with on the Cape during its 26-year history in the area. Teams in Massachusetts found one group of 10 Atlantic white-sided dolphins swimming in dangerously shallow area at dawn on Saturday and managed to herd them out into deeper water. And they don't really talk about, right?
Yeah, I want to know, like, how did they get them out of there? Oh, here we go at the bottom.
So I guess what did they say here?
Oh, it looked like it actually stalked. Okay, so they started on foot and then they herded them into deeper waters and then they used boats to make noise. I guess that sent them in a certain direction.
Interesting. Yeah, they refer to it as underwater pingers, which makes noise underwater, according to the organization, which if it's referred to as an underwater pinger, then of course it makes a noise under the water.
Does it make a ping sound underwater?
It's almost in the name. I wonder how that works. It's like magnets. Anyway, pretty interesting. My understanding of this, like why this is happening, a lot of the discussion is that there are noises somewhere else that drive them on shore, or they become disoriented because of something sonic. I don't know. But
that's certainly possible.
it's pretty cool that they got out there and they recovered these dolphins from much worse stranding than what was already happening. So
Yeah, and it looks like they rescued the majority of them, which is really good.
yeah, I think only 13 of 125. Well, good on them. And I suppose now it says those helping with the rescue effort included more than 25 staff from the organization and 100 trained volunteers. The group also had the support of Whale and Dolphin Conservation, the Center for Coastal Studies, AmeriCorps of Cape Cod, and New England Aquarium. Cool.
That's really cool.
Well,
Nice to see when efforts like that come together.
I'm glad that somebody called and said, hey, something's going on. Okay, let's keep going.
Exactly, because you can only address those things that you know about.
Yep. Our next article is over in Non Sequitur News. Some Boston subway trains are now sporting googly eyes. If you're interested in getting all of the articles for today's show, you can hit !NSN for Non Sequitur News, and it will post all of the articles from today's show. Although, yeah, the show note is wrong in that it's not for the 30th, it's for 7/2. Sorry about that, folks. Let me do this live. All right. So I updated that, but you can get all of the show notes by typing in !show notes, and that'll give you all of the commands for all of the shows that are in our library for the most current episode. And if you hit !pod, that will give you all of the podcasts, and there's 7 of them. 6 are weekend or weekly podcasts, and 1 is a daily. Non Sequitur News is a daily show. So this article over here in Non Sequitur News is about Boston subway trains are now sporting googly eyes, some of them at least. Sorry for the delay.
I mean, do you think the other trains are trying to be as cool?
Yes. Something weird is going on with the Arc browser. Anyway, Steve LeBlanc from Associated Press posted this article, and it's posted at abcnews.go.com. Yeah, that's hilarious.
Do you think that's like inspired by things like Disney planes and Disney cars?
I don't know why anybody would do it. I think that they're just trying to be fun, right? Subway riders in Boston are playing their own game of Where's Waldo? Guess they gotta find this thing. Instead of searching for a cartoon character with a red and white striped top, they're on the lookout for subway trains with googly eye decals attached to the front. Oh, they're decals, not real googly eyes.
I guess only some of them have that, so. It's like, have you seen a train with googly eyes today?
Now, that's kind of a bummer. I mean, they're decals, not real googly eyes.
Yeah, but maybe if this is a hit, they'll start painting it on the front or something.
Well, no, I mean, googly eyes have they're like little bubbles. And the eye, the pupil actually kind of rolls around. I think that would be hilarious. Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority General Manager and CEO Philip Eng said a small group of what he described as transit enthusiasts approached the agency with the unusual request to install the eyes on trains, and the group even dropped off a package of plastic googly eyes at the MBTA's headquarters in Boston. When I saw it, it made me laugh. I thought it would be, it could do something like that to have some fun. What a weird sentence.
I know that was an odd statement, but
the direct quote is, I thought we could do something like that to have some fun. All right.
Instead of, I mean, part of the problem is how people get interviewed. You know, if they interviewed and said, tell me as if I don't know anything, and then they'd say, we thought installing googly eyes would be a lot of fun or whatever, which would have more context to it.
Yeah. Yeah, instead of plastic googly eyes, which Eng feared would come loose and fly off during injuring riders, the MBTA went with decals, giving a jaunty facial expression to the trains. Well, there's my answer. they didn't go with the plastic guys because they thought they were going to fling off and hit somebody.
Yeah, that would kind of counter if they're trying to be happy, right? And then they become flying objects.
Yeah, it does give the
projectiles.
It does give the little. What are they actually? They're subway trains. Yeah, gives it a little cute face.
I wonder if they'll put this on their buses and some other things, or if other cities are going to follow this. I mean, I think this is kind of fun.
Yeah. It's a nice place to visit. I don't know if everybody should be doing this, but it is kind of hilarious when you sit down at a restaurant and you look over and you find Googly eyes sitting on the salt and pepper shakers.
Particularly if it's unexpected.
Yep. That's why I think that this is cute. This is cool because, it's not everybody doing it, but it's okay. Let's go on to the next article. Next article is over in Late Night Geek. Spotify tests emergency alerts in Sweden. I'm not quite sure why emergency alerts aren't tied into all systems, regional.
I thought this was interesting because of what it is, right? I mean, we know there's been a lot of talk about like AM radio, at least in the US, and that's kind of dying, but that's where they tend to do emergency alerts. But it's like, where do people really get notices? So I think it's kind of neat that something like Spotify has this.
Yeah, AM radio is long dead. FM radio is dying, and pretty much all mass media is kind of on the outs in terms of what people are listening to. It's very highly focused. So I think it's important to get emergency alerts out, like this hurricane barrel that's barreling down on various islands.
Barbados. Trying to keep the bee theme going.
And Jamaica, right?
And Beatty and Dominican Republic. Couldn't even say that.
So yeah, and so where do you get the alerts from? If you're, they're going to be short blasts in any other sense, right? So why not tie long form alert into something like Spotify? The only problem is people pay a service fee for Spotify, and maybe they don't want to be bombarded by emergency alerts blasting at them while they're taking a shower.
Well, maybe not, but I think it's better to get an alert like, hey, you got a Cat 5 hurricane 5 minutes from your location than not getting one and interrupting your favorite song.
Hurry up and wash up because you're about to get drenched by a Category 5 hurricane. It's now 4 and hopefully diminishing, but who knows? So yeah, they're testing this in Sweden. Now, can you imagine when this actually kicks off in more places? Well, the article's over at TechCrunch.com. Sarah Perez is the author. And it says the company confirmed to TechCrunch that it's testing such a system, but didn't explain why it would be interested in providing this kind of service to its listeners or its users. There's no Swedish law requiring the app to do so, and Spotify says that for now, it's only exploring whether or not the app could support something like an emergency alert system. I don't know. Maybe the Swedish government is kind of encouraging the distribution of information through a popular system, and maybe in Sweden, Spotify is very well engaged.
Right, and or Spotify is watching things like the AM and FM radio and going, where do people actually get access to information? It might be through our app. Like, they might be ahead of the curve.
Oh, what's really funny about this submission is I know that the submitter didn't know about this, but there was a post on Twitter that said, it would be really nice to have some place where emergency alerts could be mass distributed. And a person responded
that is interesting.
Radio, that thing that you're struggling to identify as radio. And I said, who has radio nowadays? You have to download a special app to get radio. And then it's not radio anymore, it's streaming media. So where do you actually get mass broadcast notices? And you get short form on like your phone, a silver alert or amber alert.
Amber Alert or any number of other things. Tornado Alert,
Yeah, you get
Hurricane
those kind of
Alert.
bad weather, etc. But you don't get radio anymore. I mean, unless you're driving in your car and you hit the wrong button and you suddenly get attached to whatever.
Then
is
you
the
don't know
next in the
what's
sequence.
happening.
Yeah.
What is this thing?
What the hell is going on here? Anyway, speaking of that, just give me a USB-C port. That's all I want. Don't need anything else. Just let me plug my device in. Give me a nice universal mount where it'll just magnetize right on. Tunk. You don't even need to give me a speedometer or all the other stuff. When I plug my device in, let it take over like CarPlay kind of thing. Anyway, I know. Way off the... So they say more broadly, supporting emergency alerts could also solidify Spotify's position as a more essential app to have on hand. It also steps into Meta's territory, as the social network has for nearly a decade offered ways for users to get updates during major disasters with its safety check feature. Twitter was in the process of this, if I understand it, if I remember that, before its acquisition, and now it's just kind of gone down the drain. Code references in Spotify's app mentioned the feature across the following phrases, like emergency alerts in Sweden, receive public emergency alerts, and important public announcement, IPA. Nobody just waiting for somebody to order an IPA. And they're like, no.
Oh, right. And then it like activates an announcement to the whole country or something. That would be kind of interesting.
It sends a beer to everybody, an India Pale Ale.
Well, that'd be better than the like nuclear disaster alert or something.
Ooh, too soon, Hawaii, too soon. Let's keep going. The next article is over in the Word and Law. AI trains on kids' photos even when parents use strict privacy settings, to which I spontaneously blurted out, don't put your kids' photos online.
Right. Once they're online, where do you think they're going?
And to everybody who wants to grab a picture. Anybody. You don't know who's grabbing your kids' photos off of various sites that you're plopping them on there. Don't let them stream with a camera on if they want to stream. Don't post their photos and your family photos on even Facebook. Everybody is looking at your photos. The company is selling the data to others. Don't kid yourself.
And things are getting hacked too, not even
Correct.
just trading or selling stuff.
Correct. So back up a little bit. Human Rights Watch continues to reveal how photos of real children casually posted online years ago are being used to train AI models powering image generators, even when platforms prohibiting the scraping and families use strict privacy settings. So last month, HRW researcher Hai Young Han found 170 photos of Brazilian kids that were linked to Lowen 5B, a popular AI dataset built from common crawl snapshots of the public web. Now she's released a second report flagging 190 photos of children from all from Australia's states and territories, including indigenous children. Ashley Bellinger over at arstechnica.com put the article together. The deck statement says even unlisted YouTube videos are used to train AI watchdog warrants. So where do they get access to the unlisted YouTube videos? So from a single link to one photo that showed two boys aged 3 and 4 grinning from ear to ear as they hold paintbrushes in front of a colorful mural, Han could trace both children's full names and ages and the name of the preschool they attended in Perth in Western Australia.
That's not good. I mean, the photo is certainly one thing, but the connection to the real data is really concerning.
Yeah, and this is something that I've talked about over the last 20 plus years, is the fact that anonymized data can be de-anonymized. It is without a doubt easy to do so, particularly in the internet age with data interconnected. I keep referencing this. I need to get the study itself, but there was a research study that used publicly available information and anonymized data that they could get and reverse engineered basically people's medical conditions and their ailments, like medication, who they were, where they were. It was pretty freaky. So it says only someone with a link to the video was supposed to have access, and that answers my question about how they got these anonymized or private videos. So, but that didn't stop Common Crawl and archiving the image, nor did YouTube policies prohibit AI scraping or harvesting of identifying information. Yeah, I mean, for the most part, scraping is rather an ethical situation. So all you need is a bot and a whole bunch of storage, and you can scrape the entirety of the web. Why? Because if you are accessing a site, anybody can access the site. Oh, you put it behind a paywall? Well, the bot has a paid account, so it's behind the paywall and it's still doing it. You can write terms of service, but then they stop because they get busted. And then they start up another account and do it all over again.
Yeah, it's very difficult to track people down who are doing this, and particularly if they're across countries or spoofing. I mean, it takes a lot of resources to track some of this down, and of course they're constantly changing things up.
Yep. So they have a section in here called AI uniquely harms Australian kids, but I think that it's much broader than that, but there may be context in this specifically. They say to hunt down the photos of Australian kids, Han reviewed fewer than 0.0001% of the 5.85 billion images and captions contained in the data set. This is a data set for AI training that has 5.85 billion images. Because
isn't that part of the problem here, right? Like, it's just basically indiscriminately pulled information.
Yeah, it's everything, yeah. So, because her sample is so small, Han expects that her findings represent a significant undercount of how many children could be impacted by the AI scraping. That's kind of no shit news. There's a service out there called TinEye that does reverse image lookup and does the historical context of it. So you can find out, somebody will post something, you grab that image, throw it into TinEye, and it looks back at its historical record and gives you the original that it had found. But that may not be the actual original, you know. There's always maybe somebody out there that did it before. And so having 5.85 billion images with the data, this has to be a massive database. So what's going on with it? Why do people have this? If it has personally identifiable information, if it has images, it can compromise so many people. But people have gotten used to their privacy being violated, and their emotional state being manipulated. Well, they kind of sign up
for it, right? Because they publicly post information they shouldn't.
It's because the world does not have a right to be forgotten policy. The EU does, but even that's constrained. But I think everybody should have the right. Like, if I send an email to a company saying, hey, you have my image on your site, that should be enough. Bunk. Right? If I have to go through a lawyer every time, that's going to be...
There's too much friction, right? It should be very simple. It should be like... I can't think of like a one button thing to make it happen.
See, but there's no official email. There's no official point of contact that represents you in an official way. And like, I had actually spun up a service to do that was intended to be tied to the U.S. Postal Service. Basically, everybody at an address has a specific email. And that email is for official use. And you get a new one when you move out and somebody else moves in. But it's largely for legal purposes. No unwanted email comes in. It's email that goes out and you add somebody so that they can contact you. And it was part of a really big project 20 years ago. And people didn't want to pay for it. People didn't want to have like something that is uniquely identifying or an additional email.
Well, I don't think at that time, unless you were in the privacy or IT industry, you even appreciated how prevalent data leakage was and access was, and etc.
Yeah. I mean, we have a much more educated population, but I mean, this thing has kids in Australia's indigenous population that may not even have images, or not images, but the technology.
Right, it's almost like offline, but yet they're being harmed.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Yeah, and I don't think that anybody, we have certain data protections for children here in the United States. Other countries do too. But I certainly don't think that children should be, photos of children shouldn't be online. And that's when you get into, well, I'm a parent and I'm the one that should make the choice. And well, I think that services should make the choice. You know, parents be damned. But it's because they want to share their information with family and friends and all of that kind of stuff. But there needs to be something separate that isn't ever public. And the service has to make it absolutely forbidden from anybody ever accessing it. Like, I told people that if they access logs in one of my companies, that I'd fire them on the spot. You have no right to access. You have no empowerment to access a log. The only thing that's going to have me access a log is a warrant to pull the log for forensic data. Anyway, so they say you would expect that there would be more photos of cats than there would of personal photos of children, a reflection of the entire internet. That's what Han says, but it says it's astonishing that out of a random sample of 5,000 photos, they immediately fell into 190 photos of Australian children. So, yeah, I mean, it was a micro sample, and 190 of 5,000 doesn't seem like that much, but maybe in their context,
No.
it definitely is.
But if it was like immediately accessible and they could connect the dots and
Yeah. It's even weird having this photo here of some kid on
agree.
an iPad. I mean, it's just weird. Anyway.
It might have been better to have like an artistic representation of that, right?
Yeah. AI. Make it out of AI. Oh, wait. That's what it's trained on.
Oh, no.
Never mind. The next article is over in Hatch Ideas channel. Google's carbon emissions surged nearly 50% due to AI energy demand. The increase marks a setback in Google's goal to achieve net zero emissions by 2030. How about, net neutrality is something else, and that's back. Net zero. Yeah, I don't know. So the article is over at cnbc.com. Katie Bartlett is the author, and the key points that they summarize here is Google's emissions surged 50% compared to 2019, the company said. Obviously, this is impacted by the AI surge. The news marks a setback for Google's goal of net zero emissions by 2030. So you got 6 years, Google. Figure it out. The company attributed the emission spike to an increase in data center energy consumption and power chain emissions driven by rapid advancements in and demand for AI. The impact of AI on electricity demand is well documented. Electricity demand is forecast to grow by as much as 20% by 2030, with AI data centers alone expected to add about 323 terawatt hours of electricity demand in the US alone. This is akin to like crypto mining.
Right, exactly. I mean, that seems to me the most recent thing we've seen where there's been huge spikes. And in fact, other things can't occur, right? Because so much is diverted toward crypto mining.
Yeah, we had that discussion about, well, we've had various reports that we've reported out too about how countries couldn't manufacture stuff because there was so much demand caused by crypto mining operations near the facilities. It even impacted the Ukraine conflict. So Google said in the report that its data centers are 1.8 times as energy efficient as a typical data center, which is, who knows. The company added that it remains committed to mitigating the environmental impact of AI through model optimization, efficient infrastructure, and emissions reductions. So they're going to keep working at it, I suppose. Good on them. That's fine. Keep going.
Hey, we need some alternative energy sources, and we need them fast, and we need them defensible.
Yeah, that last one is the real kicker. You wouldn't think that it would be important, but then look around. And there's so many countries that are either in conflict or borderline conflict that you need long-term defensible infrastructure, which we largely are moving away from. Let's keep going though. The next article is over in Technology Today. Hydrovolt is a company to open battery recycling facility in France. We are from France. Norwegian battery recycling firm Hydrovolt said Tuesday that it will expand internationally by opening a facility in France, boosting nascent hub. Is that a nascent hub for producing electric vehicle batteries? That's interesting. Oh.
I mean, I guess it is, right? Maybe
Yeah.
It's the first one there.
Yeah, and not just... see, battery recycling has been around for a long time, but electric vehicle focused, that hasn't been.
Right. This is the first EV factory on Thursdays,
during a blue moon. So the article is over at techexplorer.com, and it says here that this is a big milestone for Hydrovolt. Chief Executive Ole Kristen Enger said in a statement, entry to the French market will help us maintain our position as a leading European recycler of EV and industrial batteries. Remember, folks, batteries are disposable. They're not disposable, but they are, what do you call it?
They're like consumable or expendable.
There you go. Consumable is the word that I was struggling to find. They're a consumable, so when you buy your $60,000 EV, $15,000 of it is probably the battery pack, and you're paying for something that has a finite lifetime. It loses upwards of 2% based on the research of its efficiency. So in 1 year, it goes from 100% power to 98. So when you try and charge it to 80%, it's not 80% of the 100, it's 80% of the 98. And then you get ever less.
And that number just keeps dropping.
Yep, a little bit every year, somewhere between 1% and 2%. So for electric vehicles to realize their full potential to reduce carbon emissions, recycling the batteries to reuse the valuable minerals they contain is important. Hydrovolt is able to take used batteries and turn them into a powder or black mass made up of nickel, manganese, cobalt, lithium, and graphite that can be reused to make new batteries. And recycling provides a new supply of battery-grade metals, which is preferable to freshly mined materials. And they say that they can recover up to 95% of the metals from used batteries for reuse. It's great. Yep.
No, it absolutely is. I mean, this is where we need to go with this.
Then they refer to something called Northvolt. Hydrovolt expects European demand for batteries to grow exponentially as EU nations and Britain move, which is funny, EU nations and Britain because of Brexit.
I know, that was probably very intentionally worded.
Some 50 major electric battery factories or gigafactories have been announced in recent years in Europe as the region strives to avoid becoming a fully dependent upon Asian manufacturers in the strategic industry of the future. But none of this matters if the materials for the battery get owned by one country that does some dubious shit out there. The company has a project for gigafactory in northern Germany worth several billion euros, and another in Canada expected to cost 5 billion euros. It also has plans for a second Swedish factory, and I'm talking about a company that's invested in Hydrovolt called Northvolt. I guess if you want to do anything in this space, you have to call yourself Volt, something Volt.
Yeah, I mean, there's only so many names that you could have with Volt at the end.
Yeah, so I'm announcing today that ohmTown will have a battery recycling service called ohmVolt. Just kidding. That will never happen. So in the current situation, we're seeking to focus more on the core of our business, said Peter Carlson, who was quoted as saying in the Business Daily, Dagens Industry, which I'm probably pronouncing horribly wrong. Anyway, to go forward in Germany and Montreal, it is fundamental that Skellefteå, which is again probably pronounced way wrong, is the mother factory on which the plan rests. So no pressure, Hydrovolt. Don't screw this up, or yeah, I guess your money's going to be recycled.
Ooh.
Yeah, too soon. Let's keep going. The next article is over in Non Sequitur News. A Texas woman arrested after inventing a fake child.
You know, I just... Every time you see one of these weird headlines, it's like, okay, that's something unexpected.
And then you look into what it actually is. So an El Paso resident was arrested by police after claiming her non-existent child was missing. Ay. So the associated video has nothing to do with this article. But, oh wow, geez. So a 19-year-old woman has been arrested in Texas after providing a false report to police claiming her non-existent child was missing. The article is by Joe Edwards over at Newsweek.com, and this is a July 1st, 2nd article. But we have actually talked about something similar where a woman said that her child had been abducted.
That's right. I had forgotten about that one, and that one was false.
And
right?
that one was, yeah, very false. They had to do all kinds of investigation for several days or weeks or something like that. And they finally had her crack. Like the story didn't line up, and she finally broke down. And so an investigation. And so I don't understand why people do this, but Stacy Dashy Marie Smith, you know you're in deep shit when they use
your middle
all
name
four
gets
of your
announced.
names. Yeah. The longer the name, the more in trouble you are. So placed a 911 call on June 30th, during which she claimed to believe an unnamed subject had taken her friend's vehicle and her child. El Paso police said in a statement, the vehicle was later found by police, but no sign of the child was discovered. So eventually the detectives detected that it was entirely fictitious, and that Smith, a resident of El Paso, had conjured up an infant in order to expedite the police search for her friend's vehicle.
Oh
You
my
dumbass.
goodness. Okay, that is a new low.
Yeah. And just to put this in perspective, any wasted resources prevents people from what this article states here at the very end of the article. And it's not actually at the very end, but it's at around the middle line.
There might actually be somebody missing, but now they can't throw as many resources at that.
Yeah, just in the Houston-Galveston region, 9,531 missing child cases were filed in 2023 alone.
Wow. In a metropolitan area, that's really a lot.
Yeah. What a dumbass. So hopefully, I mean, obviously she's got coping skill issues. So sorry, y'all don't see what I see. Anyway, let's keep going. The next article is over in the Hatch Ideas channel. U.S. awards Moderna $176 million to produce bird flu vaccine because it's constantly growing and massive flocks are being culled. I think this is going to be a problem with
the fact that the vaccine is already being announced, I think, is a bad sign.
Oh yeah, that they're getting that far in front of it.
Correct. It's a good sign in terms of they're planning ahead, but the fact that they're already a vaccine award is really concerning.
Yeah, just keep an eye out, folks, because there's going to be dipshits out there that are going to go, oh, the vaccine is blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to get any more boneless buffalo wings. Whatever. The U.S. government has awarded $176 million to Moderna to advance development of its bird flu vaccine. like, believe me, if companies didn't buy into this, they wouldn't utilize it. And so I guess you're going to have to go and figure out which ones are using it and which ones aren't. And companies don't want to just sit there and plop this vaccine on people, or not on people, on their animals, because it's wasted money. It's going to jack the price up and everything. I mean, this is going to be crazy expensive for chicken in the future. So the funds from the U.S. Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority. Really? There's a BARPA? A BARDA. U.S. BARDA. Yeah. Huh?
Yes, BARDA.
Yeah. I thought it's all, never mind, it doesn't matter. Will be used to complete late-stage development and testing of a pre-pandemic mRNA-based vaccine against H5N1 avian influenza. So just like COVID was a flu, H5N1 is a different iteration of it that's infecting not just birds, but it's been hopping to other places. And H5N1 is the one that's been longest lasting. So it is pretty much endemic to society right now. So the agreement also includes additional options to prepare and accelerate a response to future public health threats. In March, U.S. officials reported the first outbreak of H5N1 virus in dairy cattle, which has since infected more than 130 herds in 12 states. They've actually seen it in other animals now as well, well beyond local dairy cattle. Like various deer have shown up with it, and
right.
There was something in Antarctica or something like that that had H5N1. Seals.
Yeah, when it was in dolphins, I think.
Yeah. And there's newer technology now that's not using mRNA technology, but that's still in development. So I don't know where that lands in the sense of Moderna, but it's not messenger RNA based.
Right, but wasn't that a relatively recent development?
Yeah.
COVID vaccine efforts.
Yeah. But who knows how fast we're going to be able to get future vaccinations, and what form they'll take, because some medications require an injection still, and that kind of adoption is really, it's slow, it's expensive, the manufacturing process is laborious. So it needs to be something that can be distributed en masse and get all of these, birds all at once instead of having to grab them one by one. So good luck.
And it's interesting because it sounds like they've already started the human trials for it.
Oh, interesting.
Which, wow. I mean, I don't know how extensive that is. See that the last year paragraph up near the top.
Yeah. And here's one of the things that they're talking about, and that's why I talk about it too, like insulin. I don't know if insulin still requires eggs, but it used to require eggs. Was it insulin? Damn it. Now I don't know if it's...
Well, flu was certainly egg-based. Regular influenza.
No. The treatment, whatchamacallit? Like when you get a sore throat, you take the medicine, and I just forgot what it's called. Anyway, manufacturing of conventional flu vaccines using cell or egg-based technology can take 4 to 6 months. U.S. officials have said that they're moving bulk vaccine from CSL Seqirus that closely matches the current virus into finished shots that could provide 4.8 million doses if needed. But shots need to be pills because it'll be shelf stable and easily distributed, and you can inoculate everybody. Those doses that they're talking about in this article are actually going to be for people, but not necessarily the birds. So,
right. I don't know if there are separate efforts for the birds. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Okay, let's keep going. The next article is over in the mobile channel. Volvo's disastrous new EV software is now leading to returns and full refunds. The Volvo EX30 is a very fun, very reasonably priced little electric crossover. It's also delayed in the US thanks to new tariffs on Chinese-built cars, and it seems the problems get worse from there. Volvo has now halted the sale of the model abroad after a wave of software issues from customers. So this isn't the only EV apparently that has software issues. All of the Teslas, all of the Cybertrucks, right? So all of the Teslas,
all the Fiskars,
Fisker Ocean. And if you go and watch reviews, a lot of shows are basically talking about EV software and little glitchy shit that shouldn't be happening. And it doesn't happen in ICE vehicles. You know, you always have the ability to open your door. You always have the ability to start your car unless there's something mechanically wrong. Amber De Silva over at Jalopnik put the article together, but it's posted at qz.com. Quartz, they're all one company. Or they're in a distribution partnership. I don't know what the background is, but anyway, they provide a little snippet, and we aggregated into ohmTown.com for our four-wheel tech show, where we talk about the news. And this is a weekend show if you're interested in it. So be sure to follow us wherever you find us. Just follow. And be sure to like and subscribe and all that kind of stuff. Well, Volvo has halted the sales in the model abroad after a wave of software issues reported from customers. These issues, owners have told Autocar, range from screens going blank and steering wheel buttons not responding to cars not charging, and even emergency braking systems randomly activating. They've shared stories and images online of bricked infotainment touchscreens, incorrect information being displayed, such as time and range, profiles reverting back to factory settings, and driver aids failing. I don't even have an EV, and my car was over the air updated, and now the cab light turned on, the internal cabin light.
But it had been before
turned off, and it turned on. And now, after a certain amount of time driving, my car tells me to stand up and take a break.
Which is kind of good, but not great when you can't stand up and you're in the middle of a traffic jam.
Yeah, I'm freaking driving. No. So, of course, these issues are less likely to affect buyers here in the United States. We won't be getting the car until 2025 at the earliest, when Volvo spins up production in Belgium to dodge the U.S. tariffs. They have to be significant.
This is really, I know Volvo has a good reputation, but I think this can make a serious dent in a company's reputation if it's kind of like they're so bad that people are returning them and
getting full refunds,
recalling them all, etc.
Yeah, full refunds, they said. Pretty wild. Still, when the car shows up in the States, it might be worth looking into what kind of warranties Volvo is offering on the showroom floor. Yeah.
And how much you like being locked in your vehicle.
Yeah, it's a pretty car. I've always liked Volvo. The quality, every time I've ever been in a Volvo, I've liked the quality of the build. I like the more sporty style. But I don't know how long that'll last. But I still don't buy Volvo for whatever reason. Anyway, if it is a hybrid, I'd look at it more seriously, but nope, not until then. All right, let's move on. The next and last article for today's non sequitur news, we kind of trucked through all of these articles today, is over in Smash or Trash, which has to do with pretty much anything you decide live. So we talk about stuff, and you'll be able to vote during the show. If it's a Smash, and it's usually related to music. I used to pay for the licensing to stream music, but I couldn't do it as a VOD, and I couldn't do it as distribution. You needed a sync license, and clearing that stuff is impossible. So the show has actually stalled, but we can still talk about it. This has nothing to do with music other than Young Thug. Young Thug trial paused indefinitely due to alleged misconduct by judge. The Fulton County Superior Court Judge Earl Glanville is accused of having a secret meeting with prosecutors and a key witness.
So remember, we did talk about this judge previously.
Yep. Find it pretty interesting, right? So our conclusion was, how is this person not being investigated? Nina Corcoran over at pitchfork.com put this article together. So I don't know how far back they're looking. If this is like a more modern thing, and yes. Oh, well, earlier today. So the racketeering and gang conspiracy trial against Young Thug and 5 associates in Atlanta, Georgia, already the longest criminal trial in Georgia history at 18 months, with more days to follow. Yeah, pretty wild. Has been paused indefinitely due to allegations of misconduct by Fulton County Superior Court Judge Earl Glanville, reports Washington Post. Earlier today, the Washington Post, I have to say that right. So earlier today, Judge Glanville announced that the case would not proceed until another judge decides whether he should recuse himself from overseeing the trial. This follows accusations from defense attorneys claiming that Judge Glanville held a secret meeting with prosecutors and key witness Kenneth Copeland to pressure him to testify, which the attorneys argue was improper and unconstitutional. Yeah, so they had this ex parte meeting, which at some point the defense attorney found out about and then raised the specter of impropriety live in a live courtroom. Didn't say, hey, we need a sidebar. Hey, clear the court, whatever, request clearing the court, whatever.
I think it was kind of brilliant to put it on the record, right? Because then it had to go into the transcript.
Yep. This shouldn't have been secret to begin with, because the ex parte meeting should never have been secret. So whenever something involving a witness is involved, there really shouldn't be any interaction between the judge and prosecution attorneys, because it comes across as being, at least in my understanding, I'm not an attorney, I'm not your attorney, even if I was an attorney, so go talk to an attorney. But in a nutshell, they
shouldn't be talking at all, right? Like, there shouldn't be any discussion about any aspect of the case.
Correct. Yep. I mean, the witness, if they are a witness for the prosecution, can have meetings with the prosecution attorneys, but the judge is not a prosecutor. They're supposed to be the arbiter of the law, interpret the facts, and then along with the jury decide the fate of the defense. So, but out of the blue, this attorney goes, hey, you had a conversation. And instead of the judge going, yeah, we had a conversation, it was about this and it was innocuous, not a big deal, the judge says, how'd you find out about it? And if you don't tell me about it, you're in contempt and I'm going to throw you in jail. And so the attorney goes, if you put me in jail, put me with my client so that we can discuss the case. And apparently they did.
That was pretty smart too. That they actually went to jail.
Yep. Yeah, 20 weekends in jail. 20 weekend days in jail.
That might still be going, because this wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's still going. So Steele previously said that Young Thug has committed no crime whatsoever. During opening arguments, he added that the rapper's music tells a rags to riches story, from depression, despair, hopelessness, and helplessness to wealth and acclaim, and claimed Thug was now being exploited by the true criminals who would testify against him. So, yeah.
Well, that's also interesting. I mean, I know that's the defense's position, typically, that the defendant didn't do it, but that adds another layer of interest, I guess, to this case.
Yeah, basically they're saying that he has ties to a national gang organization and quote unquote moved like a pack with Young Thug at its head. Wow. I don't know if
I
they've
don't
got
know
enough
much
evidence.
about the underlying case, but
Yeah.
I think this is fascinating. Also, the judge here is still not stepping down.
Right.
Basically, somebody else is going, should this judge step down?
Yeah.
They're not doing it voluntarily.
Yeah. And I think that this should actually be investigated at the federal level, because everybody is going to be biased. There's a lot of bias. And unless this thing has in a meeting, the judge says, look, this is everything that we talked about. It has nothing to do with this, that, or the other. We were trying to make sure that the person felt safe in being compelled to talk. And that's it. That was the full breadth and width of this. And then the witness says, yep, that's it. I don't see how they should be able to prosecute this case. They need to just step down and let somebody else do it, so that there's no, this thing is going to be taken back down on appeal because there's some cahooting going on.
Well, and if somebody says, yeah, this in fact happened, what does that mean for every other case that went before that judge too?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like a cop being found out planting information, planting drugs, And we've seen videos of that. That's how you have the whole ACAB thing, all cops are bastards statement. It's because we've witnessed, and there's other policy and procedure, like trying to block people with cameras or take them away. No, you can't do that. And I don't know. It's just, you're supposed to be part of the society that you're policing and have the respect of the population. I know that it's hard to do when there are people trying to cause you harm. But the reputation has gone the other way. So you don't want the pinnacle of the juris system, the judge itself, sitting there cahooting with one side, seemingly turning the table, or stomping on the scale of justice so that this person is thrown in jail regardless. Because I would rather have that person out and commit another crime. I would hate for them to be, for somebody around my world to be the target of it. But putting an innocent person in jail is the worst possible thing. But
yes,
some people,
it is. And especially somebody around you acts like or looks like or whatever a criminal, and so therefore you are one, which at least according to the defense sounds like
that's what's going on.
That's the claim. Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll keep on talking about this. The longest trial in Georgia history, 18 months.
Wow, this is going to be interesting to watch. I don't see how they recover from this for this trial.
Yeah, and it sours other trials, and there are other trials. All right, folks. Well, that's it for Non Sequitur News. As you can tell, we bounce around from highly humorous to ironically scary to everything in between. And we hope that you get a kick out of it. A little informed, a little giggle. But in all cases, you had a good time. So I am going to throw the book at us. And when we wake up, we'll be at the front page of ohmTown. I'm just going to refresh it because why not? And who knows what's going on? It doesn't matter, because news is news, and we make it what it is, really. That said, I am Mayor Watt, and the sentient AI from the future, signing off.
Good night, ohmTown citizens. Thanks for joining us for Non Sequitur News.
See you tomorrow at 8 p.m., unless I decide that we're going to run it early. So hopefully that's inspiration to follow us here on Twitch and over on YouTube, because you'll be informed that we are going live typically about 15 seconds before we start talking. Take care, everybody.